Martial law. It's a term that sparks fear, confusion, and intense debate. But what does it really mean? And in 2025, why are Americans suddenly talking about it again? Today, we'll dive into what martial law is, the history of its use in the United States, and how it may or may not apply to recent situations across America. Stay tuned. What is martial law? Well, at its core, martial law is the temporary imposition of military control over the normal civilian functions of government. This usually happens during extreme emergencies, such as natural disasters, insurrections, or when civil authorities lose control. Under martial law, military authorities may be granted powers that override civil law, such as imposing curfews, restrictions on movement, and even the suspension of constitutional rights. It's kind of like the government saying, things are so bad and so out of control that only the military can restore order. But there's a catch. Yeah, I know, there's always a catch. In the United States, martial law isn't really defined in the Constitution. Instead, it's been shaped by Supreme Court decisions and historical precedents. So, when has martial law actually been used in the United States? The U.S. Civil War. President Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus and used federal troops domestically. This is one of the most controversial uses of martial power in U.S. history. Hawaii during World War II. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, martial law was declared in Hawaii. The military ran courts, imposed blackouts, and suspended civil rights. Natural disasters. Governors sometimes use the National Guard to enforce order or natural disasters. This is often called military support to civilian authorities, but it edges towards martial law. These examples show that martial law is in fact rare and usually tied to a very specific and very localized emergency. So, what are the legal guardrails? Posse Comitatus Act 1878. This federal law limits the use of U.S. military in domestic law enforcement. The National Guard, when under state control, is exempt. Supreme Court rulings. In the Ex parte Milligan, 1866, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that martial law cannot exist where civil courts are operational. It's a strong affirmation of constitutional protections, even in crisis. Congressional oversight. While a president could declare martial law in theory, doing so at a national scale without congressional approval would trigger immediate legal and political backlash. As of mid-2025, several recent developments have reignited debate around martial law in the United States. Widespread protests in major cities over President Trump's foreign and domestic policies, the ICE roundups, and what some say are federal overreach. Political instability around the upcoming 2026 midterms, with growing concerns about election security and disinformation. These issues have prompted discussions on whether federal or military intervention might be used and whether it would cross the line into martial law. So, has martial law been declared in 2025? The short answer is no, not in the classic sense. However, There are cases where the National Guard units have been deployed to quell unrest, and we've saw this on the news. In some cities, we've seen curfews, roadblocks, and military-style policing. To critics, this feels like martial law, even if it hasn't been formally declared. Federal officials have denied any intention to suspend constitutional rights, but the line between emergency response and military rule can blur extremely fast. Turning the page. So, FYI, language matters. If officials start using phrases like domestic enemy combatants or insurrection zones, it could pave the way for more extreme actions. If the U.S. were to declare nationwide martial law, what could it involve? Well, it could involve things like suspension of civil courts and civilian law enforcement, military trials replacing jury courts, deployment of active duty troops in American streets, suspension of habeas corpus, meaning people could be detained indefinitely without a speedy trial, widespread censorship, surveillance, and restrictions on gatherings or on the media. But again, this is highly unlikely. Politically, it would be explosive. Legally, it would face immediate challenges. And operationally, the United States military is not built and equipped to police 300 million plus American people. Why are so many Americans still worried about martial law? It could be the misinformation. Online rumors about FEMA camps or troop movements often go viral without any real evidence. With trust in government near what could be said as being a historic low, even routine emergency actions could spark conspiracy theories. Plus, with the AI generated content and deep fakes, it's too easy for domestic or even foreign terrorists to manufacture false narratives about government crackdowns. So, what can you do? Stay informed. Check multiple and credible sources before believing the claims and rumors about martial law. Know your rights. Even in emergencies, the Constitution doesn't simply disappear. Engage locally. Speak with your local officials and ask them questions. Push for transparency. Demand that emergency declarations be public, specific, and time limited. Martial law isn't just a legal issue, it's a civic one. In conclusion, martial law in the United States has always been a rare and controversial as well as tightly constrained thing. While 2025 has brought new tensions and real fears, we're not living under martial law right now. Remember that knowing your rights and how power works is, in fact, protecting your liberty. So, what do you think? Could we see martial law in our lifetime? Or are these just overblown fears? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video if you thought it to be informative or helpful. Remember, be prepared, get proper training, and learn new skills. Visit us on the web at www.venerable.com. Thank you for watching.